Schools Board of Education regular session, June 22nd. Roll call, please, Pat.
Jrotc.
Here.
Derek Campbell.
Present.
Dr. Joseph.
Here.
John Hurd.
Present.
Harley Hartwell.
Here.
Brent Jordan.
Present.
And Jeff Pope.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, can you please join me in standing for the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. First up, we've got approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sherrick. Thank you, Derek. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, the motion passes. Great. All right. First thing up, celebrations. Okay. All right. We had quite a few celebrations. We'll start off here. The STP X25, Safe, Trustworthy Professionals. Joplin Schools Transportation Department has achieved a 97% on its annual state bus inspections. We've also received the Fleet Excellence Award again this year. This makes 25 years in a row that Joplin Schools Transportation has achieved this honor. Justin Henson, Assistant Director of Transportation, has done a fantastic job keeping our district buses safe. Our transportation and it's the best in the business. Special thanks to Joe Greninger, Joe Dorsey, Eric Hudson, and Dan White. Thank you guys. 25 years. Next up, Jrotc Leadership Camp. So after months of training and preparation, 25 cadets graduated from the Jrotc Cadet Leadership Camp this year. 23 cadets earned a half credit for their hard work. The cadets learned and practiced physical training, United States Marine Corps and U.S. Army, communications, first aid, land navigation, archery, marksmanship, obstacle course, note negotiation, a 3.5-mile foot march, an 8-mile canoe trip. It was an amazing week. The kids performed spectacularly. Many thanks to the volunteers and organizations that came together to assist in the Jrotc program. Very nice, guys. Next up, the summer school PE at Soaring Heights has been a blast. Students have been working on good sportsmanship, lifetime fitness, and teamwork. And my favorite, the parachute game.
Mine as well. Yeah.
All right. The summer school students at Cecil Floyd learned about foxes and their habitat from a guest educator. They created sun catchers and made solar ovens from boxes. And then students saved Fred. Summer school students at Cecil Floyd read about how Fred, the gummy worm, capsized but did not know how to swim and needed a life preserver, a gummy lifesaver. Students worked with partners to save Fred. The challenge was to get his life preserver on by only using the given tools, 4 paper clips. To do so, students exercise their skills of cooperation, communication, problem solving, perseverance, and their sense of humor. So they saved Fred. And then the 4th graders and kindergartens pair off each week at Soaring Heights to be reading buddies. Here, they enjoy a game of alphabet bingo together. So you've got the 4th grader and their buddy that's a kindergarten. And then the 4th graders at Soaring Heights also rotated through 7 glowing multiplication math stations. They love working under the black lights and seeing everything glow and sneak in some education. All right, and the board recognition of state awards. We had the Class 5 Misha Track and Field Championships, and I do have some awards to present. So as I call your name, join me over here at the podium, and I'll give you your award. We'll get a picture. This was the track and field team. They went to state. Donovan Fowler finished 2nd place in the triple jump and 4th place in the long jump.
He's unable to be here.
Unable to be here. I'll take that one. 6th place in the 1,600 meters and 4th place in the 4x800. Hobbs Campbell. Thank you. All right, next up, 7th place in the 800 meters and 4th place in the 4x800, Micah Burke. Thank you. Congrats. Thanks for representing. All right, next up, we've got 4th place in the 4x800, Evan Matlock. Next up, also 4th place in the 4x800, Ashton Ventura. Next up, also the 4x800 meter, Zayden Barnes. All right, now we've got 1st place in the 200 meter, 1st place in the 400 meter, 1st place in the 800 meter, 1st place in discus, Cameron Ledford, but Cameron is not with us tonight. 15th place in the javelin with a throw of 105 feet 4 inches, Elaine Merritt. I know some of this. 8th place 1600 meters and 11th place 800 meters generally. Next up, we got 7th place in the long jump with a jump of 21 feet 6.75 inches. Trayshawn Thomas. 4th place in the shot put, a throw of 53 and 3.75 inches. Donovan Watkins.
Throw a shot put.
And last but not least, 4th place in the 4x800 meter relay, Nicholas Horton. All right, thank you guys. And I see their coach over there, their coaches over there, so congratulations, you guys too. That's a great way to represent the Eagles. Congratulations, guys. And last but not least, we do have we have a doctor in the house again. So Sarah Mwangi, she had been working on her PhD, and we learned today that she has passed enough to be able to be called a doctor. So welcome
They
to the
stole that
Congratulations.
Just today, hot off the press.
hot off the press. It's been a long day.
All right. All right, that's enough for our celebrations. We do have a couple of board committee reports that we can share. We had the Finance Committee. Dr. Joseph and I met with Shelley and Dr. Langford also. We'll take as much time with them as we can get. They basically reviewed the preparation for tonight's final presentation of the budget for 2020, 2021, and then the preparation for next year's budget. So you'll see a lot of that work and the results of what they're going to share. Policy Committee.
Yeah, we met on June 8th, I believe. We had 3 policies that we worked with MSBA in coordinating, and we sent that through first reading the last time we met in our special meeting 10 days ago or so. And should be on tonight's agenda for our second reading, but it's basically those policies of dealing with broadcast, defining terms and outlining really protections for our district as far as who can have access to our kids on the sidelines and things like that as far as media is concerned. And then the policy behind establishing broadcasting rights for individuals that are going to broadcast Eagle.
I think that's
Eagle
a
work,
great
so.
accomplishment because it's something that the State Board of Education didn't have in place for any of the districts. So congratulations for paving the way. We also had the Board Data Committee. John, what'd you learn?
A lot of data, a lot of numbers, a lot of crunching. And nothing is consistent over the years. But I think as we're moving forward, what you outlined was that we'll get to a consistent curriculum and a piece of data set that helps us gauge kind of that year-over-year progress. And I think on a number of them, we've made some real progress, especially in some of the core course curriculum. So it's great to see.
Definitely closed some gaps this year and had more than expected year's growth in a lot of our areas.
I
So
think the students were ready too.
commend the teachers and the students for rolling up their sleeves and really from fall to spring, some great outcomes for us.
Very good. All right, thank you. All right, next up, we got the superintendent's data report.
All right, and first on that is a construction update, and I see Aaron and Chad, so come on up, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. This is for later.
Sir.
All right.
Sure. It's not that one.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. We wanted to spend a moment and provide you with a project cost update. That will include a little bit of a chronology, a refresher, if you will, for how we got to where we are today. As a reminder, on 5/28 on 2019, that was the first general budget that was developed with no site in mind. That first estimate came in around 19.6 million. And you see described there, the budget was developed from historical data using typical building costs and general site development. The site had not yet been determined at that point. Fast forward to January 16, 2020, and we developed the first estimate around Doverville site option 1. With that, there were several other options that were developed as well, but the final decision to go with option 1 was developed, and all of that happened before the bond was put together. That total project budget was $23.5 million. The budget was updated to include site development costs associated with improving Dover Hill based on that conceptual design. That included, from the previous version, that included the addition of earthwork, the entry drive from Murphy Boulevard, the entry drive from Main Street, interior site circulation, both vehicular and pedestrian, as well as the turn lane and improvements at Main and Murphy. Okay, so that was the bond, pre-bond budget that was developed on January 16, 2020. Fast forward to December 21st, 2020, and that was at the 50% design development update, which we provided, and there was a board vote to accept the increase in the overall project budget of $25.2 million. That budget was updated to reflect the development site design as well as the increase in the program requirements. So if you remember back at that meeting, what we had discussed at that time was the expansion of the SPED spaces to further assist the district and community in some of the programming that was needed in that part of the community. I don't know if Dr. Moss would like to.
Well, and with that special education expansion, in our discussions and design development meetings with teachers and community, we have not had what we call our CBSS special education for the north side of town. We didn't have it at West Central. We didn't have it at Columbia. And now that we're merging our buildings, rather than continue to bus students away from areas where their families have chosen to live, our most high incentive needs special education students have not been able to be served in their own zone district. So this will allow that to happen. And as we looked into that, it seemed like a worthy cause. And we also needed to look at making sure that our kitchen was of adequate space to be able to feed and take care of the students that we anticipate there. So anticipating that, those were the two big drivers of the increase in square footage to the original design.
Thank you. In addition to that, we also included costs for providing additional electrical capacity for the school in case there was ever a future expansion added on to the facility. It was much cheaper to build today than it would be in the future, and to accommodate for that during the process. We also, at that time, had the final direction on stormwater requirements that would be needed for the site. That would include a detention area as well, and so there was some earthwork associated with that. We also provided additional fencing for safety and security, not only for the playground areas, but also adjacent to the train tracks that are on the west side of the site. We also included an upgrade to the entry drive from Murphy to allow for stacking within the site. Based on the original traffic study, it was noted that with the anticipation of around 200 cars that we needed to be able to accommodate for that type of stacking within the site and not on Murphy Boulevard. So the concept and the design was updated to include that 3-lane stacking drive off of Murphy. Overall, the increase in the square footage to accommodate for the sped expansion, the enclosed balconies, as well as the additional kitchen space resulted in about 3,000 square feet from our original pre-bond budget, if you will, the original version. And that roughly equates to about $840,000 increase, which was approved on December 21st, 2020. Then March 2021, we had our drawings and updated 50% construction documents of approximately $26.1 million, which is roughly 3.39% increase from the adjusted budget. And at that time, when we provided an update to the board, we talked a lot about, the fact that the building was relatively the same. There wasn't any increase in costs due to change in scope. It was purely market driven. We were starting at that time to see market inflation, we outlined, as shown there, the majority of those cost increases were in the categories of mainly steel, and everything that you see there had a direct impact as a result of some of the steel cost increase. And then more recently on bid day, we have a total project budget of $26.6 million, which is approximately 5.33% up from the adjusted budget. And again, that increase is due to continued market inflation. The building unchanged, still the same square footage, still the same design. But I guess the thing that I want to underscore here is that these numbers are still being refined in preparation by Crossing for presenting the guaranteed maximum price, which I think is in the next.
Yeah, so we really hope to bring you some better information today. We were hoping to bring you, given the volatility of the market, really kind of drawn down and looking at these numbers even closer to make sure we got apples to apples with one. Also make sure that our numbers are solid. We don't want any prices going up after we say GMP mark that date. Likewise, we haven't seen much going down, but we have seen a leveling off. So we're really hoping that over the next couple of weeks, we could possibly give you some better pricing. So on bid day, this is, if you go to the handout, on bid day, these numbers were actually higher. Everyone who did that. These numbers have actually gone down by roughly $200,000, which is heading in the right direction. We felt it was a little premature to bring you numbers today, which is why we contacted Dr. Moss to see if we could get a special board meeting.
We're looking at Thursday at 4 based on the feedback I've received from, I think, most of our board members. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but that seems to be the time most people can attend. And if you haven't gotten back to us, let us know if that's going to work for you.
Another special thing that we're doing right now is we're vetting all the subs and suppliers that came in on bid day. We're not just looking at the low guys. As you know, the lowest, most responsible bidder is what we're looking at. We don't want to recommend a bidder that's going to they want a dime and a change order. That's all to that. We want a quality set, we want someone that is going to be on board with this facility lasting 100 years or more, and not just a stuff that's a one of them. So we want some vested interest. Sometimes that means we may recommend number two. Ultimately, you guys have the final decision on who we use, but those recommendations are very important to us. You are your construction manager, you want to do what's right for the district.
I want to say something, 'cause I think there's been some confusion maybe with some folks in some place in the community possibly that think that these might be change orders. That as we bring these packages in, that these are change orders as we go. They're not change orders. They're part of the entire package. We're just adopting them in pieces because of when the bids came in. And when he said the word change order, that is the goal, is to get these locked in so that's what the guaranteed maximum price is for. So when we adopted those, the guaranteed maximum price for the dirt work and everything up on the hill, that's what the price is. And the plan is to keep it right there and not to exceed that. That's what the guaranteed maximum price is, and it's part of the contract. Okay.
That was perfect because I got into some discussions with, they thought it was change orders at the 4 million or whatever it was that came out, and trying to explain to them it's not.
I think the difference is when we did Joplin Early Childhood, that was a different delivery method. It was called a hard bid, and we bid it all up front, and then we had this number we were working with all along the way because it was bid that way up front. This has been because of a much bigger project than Joplin Early Childhood, 2.5 times bigger, more, plus Kelsey Norman, and utilizing a construction manager to help us costing all the way through with the architect, with us, along the way. And then once the cost is set, it's set. That's what it is. Right now, we're working on Kelsey Norman, and we're doing well there. It's coming in good. It's coming in right where we thought it was. And the change orders or the things that are happening are minuscule, thankfully, at this point.
That's zero. And we still have half of our contingency left.
So once we get into, this is the final number, the plan then is that is the final number.
I think it was just previous projects, and then there's a lack of trust, and trying to explain it, I personally think, and I hope some of the people that reached out by private message are actually watching and seeing that we are being transparent about this project. I mean, I was concerned first when I first saw it, and I'm like, oh no, okay. So I'm hoping that they're watching and listening, and I hope they feel stupid for saying the things they said.
I think, and I go the other way. I hope we provide more information so they can see that it is going in an open way. So I think the 19.6 number was the number we saw from a long time ago, before we had what the building was going to be, before we had where it was going to be with its special circumstances. And I don't know if you're going to talk to that or not, but I think those are a couple of the big things that when you start a project, everybody's excited about it, but they may not watch, meeting number 7, where the next phase starts, and meeting number 12, and want to make sure we got it all together so anybody can look and see it's.
And I think this is a good start right here. I would just say build on that so they can see it. And it's a lot easier in black and white, I guess, for some people to understand.
I like the way this lays out because it helps sometimes with that alignment.
Right.
There are a couple things I call out that's bothered me with this project at the beginning is and look, I've got the backdrop of I've built a lot of buildings in my life, okay? So first thing I always look at is a site. This site is awfully problematic. And you could lean forward and say, yeah, that's probably one of the worst ones you've seen. I would not have bothered with this site because it's so problematic, because you can't put that kind of money in site development. Because after you've done the site development, you know what you got as a return on it? Nothing. And you probably have never dealt with one like this before, because the people would have turned around and walked away from it and said, you can't do this site. But now we're into it. and we're into it pretty deep, and it's kind of like sunk money. And the thing that concerns me is, again, any project I've ever done, I always had all the land core samples done before I even considered it. So I knew exactly what I was dealing with under the ground. I don't think we did that here. We did do that? Okay.
And there were 4, if not 5 sites that were considered all along the process. And there was,
That were worse than this?
they were, yes. And the one
They were not
that, as far as challenges to get it to where, like you're saying, like we wanted to build a building, but the one site that was maybe not more challenging was lots more expensive, because this was nothing. This cost us nothing, and the other one was going to cost us a lot. I mean, before we ever got into this part. So I think under the circumstances and trying to put a school in the northwest quadrant of the town, we were fortunate to get this site, even though we knew that there were going to be some challenges, like you said, John.
The site, in my mind, was a true celebration. It was a collaboration with our city, and I appreciate what John's saying, but it was not a hard decision for this site.
No,
But all I'm saying is that I used to look at it and say, hey, look, if I can buy this land for $10 and I got to buy this for $1 million, but the land for $10 cost me $4 million to develop, I'd rather spend the $1 million on it over here. And I wasn't part of that process. And I don't know if you guys went through that. I'm just calling it out, because if you did,
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
great, but that's something.
There was
I want to assure the voters and everybody watching that we definitely went through that.
Well,
process.
we walked every piece of property, and outside of buying 16 or 18 city blocks, and God knows what that would have cost, then these were the options we had. And we were, again, you're right, there's some money we're going to sink in the ground, but I think that this site, in the end, is going to be a jewel.
There was one parcel of land in particular that would have cost us a lot more to buy. And then in doing the traffic study in our meetings with the city, we were going to be required to build a roundabout.
Mhm.
And with the traffic ease, it was going to be way more expensive than this one. And there was either, I'm drawing a blank on the word when you have to mitigate chemical things or
Environmental.
yeah,
Environmental,
that,
yeah.
or it just simply wasn't
Yes.
available. And we needed to put it in an approximate zone of the 2 campuses we were merging. And I'm grateful to the city.
I am too.
And the presence of that location and is going to be tremendous for us. So I never wanted to appear in any way, shape, or form that we are not grateful for that donation.
What is unique about it is, well, the nighting part is we're better off right as we sit here right now than we would be almost anywhere else in Joplin. And I say that, I'll put up jinxes, but so far we're doing better. So far.
I'll just add, when Kerry said that he walked every one of those sections that we looked at, he literally walked, because I know I was with him for some of those trips, and that was during tick season and snake season, and it didn't matter. He was out there in a suit and dress shoes, and he walked every corner of it.
You and I-
Exactly.
I wanted the wild animals to know what we meant business.
Quick question, real quick, for Dr. Moss. Going back, I'm trying to just walk through this because I agree with Derek. There is some misinformation out there, so I just want to clear some of these things up. We started at 19.6 million is what our literature said, correct?
Mhm.
But we knew before the bond passed it was going to be 23 million. Why did we tell people it was going to be 19.6 million?
I think that when we originated the frequently asked questions, because Jeff brought that one up to me, and then we had not hired an architect yet. There were so many things that we did not know when we were building for 450 kids based on square footage that's usually required. That did not include knowing where that site was. So I'd have to go back and revisit yet again because memory fades. But we were still looking at whether we were going to have to buy property. And the 19 million did not include anything related to the site.
I think one other thing to consider with that also is the date
Right.
The Dover came was before the bond was supposed to be that
That's what
April.
I was going to say. The bond issue passed in June, right?
Right, but it was supposed to be in
In April. Because it was delayed
Yeah.
because of obvious reasons. So in 528, there's no site. We are at 19.6 million. And then 1/16/2020, we have a site. Then we're at 23.5 million, right?
Did we have a?
But and that's according to this, final pre-bond budget, 1/16/2020. Okay? So my question is, we printed literature, we did these things, we continued to push the narrative that it was only 19.6 million, but it really was 23 at the time. Is that correct?
Raleigh, I'd have to go back and look. I wasn't
Yeah.
prepared for that question tonight.
I'm just trying, I'm walking through these as I got this today, so I got it from you. And I'm trying to clear up some of the transparency questions. I'm not opposed to the project, I just want to see how we got to where we're at.
Okay, I'll have an answer for you on Thursday.
The other thing I want to point out is the 19.6 was an estimate before we had even hired an architect.
Sure.
So I think that needs to be known here.
And that was also, Gary, that was done going off previous projects.
Yes. And square footage that we could guesstimate at that time, the cost per square foot, not knowing all the things that we would have to do to make sure the site was okay, and all these other things that has been mentioned here. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it was the pricing pre-COVID or pre-market, and it was done off previous. So, I mean,
Sure.
we're fortunate it passed.
Yeah.
But there are, it did go up.
I totally agree with you, Derek. I don't disagree that we are going to, of course, see, and the whole country is seeing increases. And
Right.
we're not immune to any of that. And I think Dr. Langford said it best, that this is the time to move forward, and I'm not opposed to that at all. I'm just saying that as we kind of look at the timeline, if I'm confused, I don't know how we have any reasonable expectation of somebody in the community
Right.
not to be.
To
Not to be
understand.
confused. And we did go back and we referred to some of our history as a district, and we're not responsible. Nobody on this board was there.
Right.
Jeff was, but he wasn't really. A lot of that was in motion before he got there. But my point is, we aren't responsible for those actions, but we bear the burden of that,
Right.
unfortunately. So I think we just have to be hyper vigilant to those concerns. And I don't think people are crazy at all. And like I said, I keep going back to the fact that if I don't understand, how can I expect anybody in the community to understand? And when the bond issue passed in June of 2020, and on the 16th day of January 2020, we knew it was going to be $23 million. And our literature shared that it was $19.6 million to the public. And on January 16th, 2020, we said Dover Hill and Kelsey Norman was going to be $26.4 million. I'm personally concerned about that as we look back at that. So not opposed to the project by any means. And the people want this. I want this. I voted for the bond issue. But I just think that we owe it to people to say, okay, this is where we were. And if we made a mistake, this is where that was. And then we move forward. But if we don't open those lines of communication, I think we're right back to where we may have been in a previous time.
Well, I just looked at a bond request vote, and it had a total package of 25 million for both schools.
That's what I was thinking.
At least in the literature
Right.
that was going out by the bond campaign committee and Dr. Moss going to meetings, it did not have a breakout of 19 and 3 or whatever. It had 25 million to build 2 schools, is what it said. So, no.
And we
maybe-
talked
maybe-
a lot about what a no tax increase bond would
Right.
generate,
Right.
and that we were confident that it would generate 25. Thankfully, with the premium, it generated about 26.4. And throughout our campaign, and I've gone back to double check that since the issue was raised, we also talked about cap outlay. and cap outlay being healthy, and that any gaps in there we could adequately cover. And that was transparent through the campaign as well.
I think that's where some confusion comes in though, because I think if you would ask the people of Joplin, they would tell you that they thought they were signing up for 2 schools for 25 million. They're not interested in capital outlay or in one other bucket. And the concern I think Riley's voicing at SMI is if you're now at 26.6 with 1 school plus Kelsey Norman, that doesn't sound like 25 million for 2 schools. And somewhere in there, we've got to reconcile that back so it's clear, it's transparent, and everybody understands it. And I call out, hey, there's a site issue here with just that this is an expensive site development, and you have market conditions. And then, well, we'll find out how the bids come in. That's going to be interesting too, because I know what I've been experiencing, and I've been putting projects off because of that, because it's such a market bubble. And I've been calling that out for a couple of months. I'm very concerned that it's going to go from 23 to 26.6 to I don't know what. And I don't want to be talking about this 6 months from now saying, gee, we just didn't know this was going to happen. I think it's staring us in the face that we're going to see more escalation. And if that's the case, well, what are we going to do about it? Should really agree where the conversation goes then.
I think, because we've talked about this a lot, and I think there's 3 big buckets. There's the building, which was 19.6. There wasn't anything in there for the site because we didn't know where it was going to be when we started. And we were blessed with this site, but this site is about 3.4 million to develop. We added some things for the sped and the kitchen and retaining walls and some things that we hadn't planned on that was approved. That was about 900,000. And then there was about 1.4 million in interest or inflation, from the December to now. Didn't change any specs, didn't change anything, just cost went up. So if I take those 3 together, that's 4.8, that's 5.3 million different than when we started at 19.6. If you add those together, you're about 25. So you are over, but it's not as dramatic as 19 to 26 because we're counting different things in those numbers. Now we got land in there. And that's one of the things that I say, help me come down from the problem of 19.6 is what we were shared, but we expected that would be a complete building. Didn't consider the fact that that wasn't on some land somewhere.
There's no way you could build a building this complex and this size and not think that there was going to be, that it was going to go above and beyond what you estimated. Personally, I think it's phenomenal, taking everything into consideration and the size of this building that we didn't even have architectural drawings, and this was all an estimate.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're lucky it's not more. I mean, I think it's.
I agree.
To get that close on this type of a project with a guess, basically it was a guess.
Yeah. And it may
it's
be
through the roof. I mean,
because the way we did it before.
You tell me the size of a project and to get this close. I mean, you estimate jobs all the time, but
Typically, if we get within 5%, that's excellent.
yeah.
Excellent.
So the way we
I think
did the
it's
early
phenomenal
childhood
that
education
it's
was
close.
here, it's 10 million, go do it. I think people perceive that 19.6 was the same mechanism.
Right.
I mean,
100%, I think
and-
that's what it is.
good or bad, I mean, that was the experience that we had. And now we have to do educating ourselves and educating, our constituents. Hey, this is how we got to where we're at. But 3.4 for the site, I don't know how much it would cost to, level 5 blocks and move out 100 people. You don't want to do that either. You don't want to build a roundabout and divert traffic downtown. I mean, there's a lot of things that we didn't do that are much, much worse. But I think we just need to make sure that we're accountable to what we've got now.
Well, I think the PowerPoint clearly lays out from start to finish, and I appreciate that very much. I think our community will appreciate that very much. If there's more information, certainly, request that from Dr. Moss or whatever after the meeting or sometime, the rest of this week, and let's push forward.
Build a building.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. You got my number? You got my number now? Okay, call me. If I didn't feel Springfield tomorrow, I'll be over there watching it. Okay, now holler at me.
questions or construction?
Yeah, that's it for construction, I think.
Okay, we're ready to move on to health and dental reports. Dr. Langford and Ms. Toft.
On our health and dental this month, or for the end of May, we had spent about 6.5 million of our 7.4 million budget. I would like to direct your attention, Eric, if you would go to the page 3 there. And we're still collecting 2 months of premiums on our 9, 10, and 11-month employees. So that's why the revenues are up a little bit. We did see some higher claims in May. But some of those were covered under stop loss, so we've already received a refund of those in June, so you'll see that coming through the next month. Otherwise, the dental plan continues to track as it has been, and Jamie will be here a little bit later to discuss our whole health plan with you. But I'll be glad to answer any other questions you may have.
And moving on to financial statements.
I'll let you do that.
On the financial statements, we'll go to Dr. Langford's favorite page, the condensed financial statement. We have collected the bulk of our revenue for the year through the month of May. And on our expenditures, really there's not anything major that is out of line. We will see what happens in the month of June is we see 3 months of payroll on our monthly employees come through. So that's why some of those expenditures look like, whoa, we're way under. But the month of June, we end up seeing 3 of those. So those will come off back into line, we think. We're still projecting that we'll be a little bit under our expenditure budget for the year. Last year, of course, this year we've got the bond payment that's showing up in the revenues. Last year we had over in the expenditures that capital projects fund was that lease obligation that was paid off. And so that's what that big discrepancy is on the capital projects fund. But I'd answer any other questions you may have.
Looks good.
Looks good. Thank you very much. All right. Next up, we've got public comments. We do have one public comment, Michael Ori. Michael, if you would, walk to the microphone. I'll read a little statement to you and let you speak. We've got 3 minutes. Okay, when you approach the standing microphone, please give your name and address. Please do not identify any district personnel or student by name or any other identifiable information. And we may not be able to respond to your statement.
Okay. My name's Michael Ori. I live at 1408 West Zora, Joplin, Missouri. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And I stand before you a little disgruntled, to say the least. I'm here to find out answers to questions I feel should have been answered weeks, if not months ago. The school system did not give information on summer school or the busing thereof until the last day of school. That makes it impossible to ask questions. I had concerns. I got 3 different answers to when the bus should be there. 3:08, 3:12, 3:15. Then it shows up at 3:35. A 14-month-old daughter. And it's not right for her to have to sit in the car when it's 95 degrees out. I asked the bus driver if she could narrow that down, that time frame. You'll be here when I get here. It's the law. She slammed the door in my face and drove off. It's unacceptable. I don't need a text saying the bus is going to be late when I'm sitting at the bus stop. I find that bizarre, to say the least. And I guess I could handle that by not letting my daughter ride the bus. But she wants to ride the bus. She loves school. Now, I had an incident with my daughter the second day of school year, August 25th. She come home, looked like she was beat up. When I asked the principal the next day about it, she said she'd look into it and get back with me. I'm still waiting. My daughter bumps her head a few weeks later with another student. She goes to the nurse. I get a phone call, I get a text message, and I get an incident report. I asked, well, did you observe her for maybe concussion protocol? I was looked at like I was from another planet. She went to the nurse. And then what? I can't give any answers, and I feel those are answers that should have been answered when it happened. Where do I need to go? And one other thing, my daughter found this at Columbia School today. It's like a $70 brand new art kit. Where can I return it? What can I do with this to get it to the student that it belongs to? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And just as a reminder, as it wasn't an agenda item, we're not allowed to speak on it from the board for sunshine reasons, but we'll make sure that we have contact. All right, next up.
I'd make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as proposed.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, motion and second. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. All right. Next up, health plan renewal. Justin?
Yeah, so we arranged our health plan reinsurance renewal, and I'll bring our expert, Jamie Brummett, from BP&J. She's actually the expert on her here. We can get some good news.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent. Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I think there's going to be a presentation that comes up. I recognize a lot of you from past years. You know, we've come and met and talked about this and some new faces. So just to introduce myself again, I am Jamie Brummett. I'm from Parker Phillips Jackson. We are the insurance brokerage that represents the school district and all of your employee benefits. So we handle everything related to your employee benefits. So today what we're going to talk about, the agenda, is to just go through, it's been 3 years that we've been with UMR. So we're going to talk about the RFP process that we went through, who responded, what we're recommending for the upcoming plan year. We're going to look a little bit at claims, just because I want you to understand how the district is performing, and then just give our recommendations, all right? So for the RFP process, we took the medical plan out to market. We looked at claims administrators. We looked at network repricing, pharmacy analysis, and we had sent this out to UMR, Anthem, BMI, Cigna, Freeman Health Systems, HSG, and Maritime, which is a division of Aetna. The next slide. So after the Health Plan Advisory Group, okay, they used to be the Health Plan Advisory Committee, they became the group, now we're going to be a committee again, you know, so it's just going back and forth. But anyway, I brought all of those detailed responses and cost analysis to the group to look at. So the group looked at that, and really the best carrier is to stay with UMR, which is the current carrier, okay? So the current carrier with United Healthcare Choice Plus Network, the Optum RX Pharmacy, it was the most competitive overall proposal. They gave you another rate hold on your admin fees for 2 more years. Those haven't changed in 3 years. We get 2 more years at the same fee. Then it goes up by 27 cents per employee per month in year 3. That's an additional $3,000 almost in year 3. They improved the pharmacy pricing and pharmacy rebates. They're offering a first year $20,000 admin fee credit called a partnership credit. And for 3 years, you're going to get a $10,000 per year wellness credit. Now, in talking with the group, that actually will cover about what they pay each year out of their budget for flu shots for the district employees. So this $10,000 wellness credit that UMR is going to give is going to cover the flu shots if that's what you choose to use it for. So great benefit, a lot of additional savings to the district to stay with the company that the district's been with for 3 years. So our recommendation was to remain with UMR for the next 3 years. All right, the next couple slides we'll talk about claims performance. And I know it's kind of hard to see this. We really looked at, just so you guys know, it runs on a plan year basis that starts in October. So the medical plan starts in October. So it runs from these, show you October 18th to September 19th, compared to September of 19 or October 19 to September 2020, just so you can see how the claims ran out. So plan year 2018 was a very tough claim year. There were a lot of claims that ran out from the prior administrator. There were a lot of high dollar claimants. There was one member with claims close to $2 million. There were some very high claims that plan year. But your total cost between medical and RX was $6 million. Last full plan year, it was $5.6 million. So it went down in the 2019 plan year. One thing that's on this slide that I want to show you, we noticed from the 18 to 19 plan year, your prescription costs went through the roof. So we did a change last year that I'll talk about on the next slide. But I do want to show you on this slide, and if this gets shared out with you later for you guys to see, we've got the U compared to the UMR norm. Okay, so the UMR education segment. So UMR, your peer group is those with 1,000 to 2,499 employees, and you are 18% below the average of that group as far as your costs go. And then when you look at UMR education sector as a whole, all size groups, you're 16% below. So you are running very well compared to the UMR norm, and overall just running very well. So if we'll go to the next slide, I don't want to get into too much detail on this, but like I said, we changed your prescription plan because you have a lot of high cost claimants. Some of you on this board are physicians. So you understand these specialty medications that are rolling out new to market, different programs, high cost medications. So we moved to Optum RX with some more management programs, better rebates, things like that for the district. We took your costs down by over $500,000 just in claims costs. That doesn't even factor in the additional about $300,000 in additional rebates that you'll be receiving. So fantastic savings moving last year on the RX program, right? The next year, we kind of look at stop loss. So for those of you that are new on the board, we have several different types of stop loss. So you are self-funded, which means you have a fund. Claims are paid out of that fund. Admin fees are paid out of that fund. But you have protection. You have reinsurance protection that protects you against any claimant over $200,000. And as a whole, your claims going over 125% of expected claims. So on this sheet, I can show you your paid claims in the 2018 plan year was 5.7 million. The expected for that year was 4.4. And your maximum stop loss exposure was 5.5. So that year was a very bad claim year. All right, so just want to point that out. The 2019 plan year, your paid claims were 5.2 million. Okay, and that compared to your expected of 5.3. So you ran very well last year. And so far this year, you have 4 million in claims. Annualized, that would be 6 million. However, that's a really high estimate, quite honestly. You've had 3 claimants, 2 of those being COVID claimants. They were inpatient for over 30 days apiece. Very expensive claimants that as we look to the remainder of the year, we shouldn't have claims that high, but you know, kind of a worst case scenario, we're looking to finish the year around 6 million. So still right around the expected claims dollar and well below your maximum liability. I want to get into a reserve funding review. This is something we discussed 3 years ago when we set the premium, the plan design. And so I want to discuss this now. So your claims and fixed costs, your expenses in the 2019 plan year was $4.8 million. Your contributions to the fund, so that's premium contributions that came into the fund, the rebates from the prescription providers, things like that, was $5.8 million. So your reserve balance grew by $1 million last year. So in October of 2020 and May 2021, so not the full plan year, your claims have been 4.5, premium contributions 4.2. So there's been a loss of 303,000 this year. However, we do have 181,000 that's going to be hitting very soon with a stop loss claim coming through. So just, you really, even though this has been a really rough year, you haven't lost much at all. And your reserve balance, this is the important part, is still sitting at $5,567,000. Now I point that out because when we make recommendations for reserve balances, that really should be 25 to 35% of your expected claims, which would equate to 1.8 to 2.6 million for the district. You have about $5.6 million in there. So you are overfunded. You have about 100% of a plan year's worth of claims funding in your plan. So you're still very well funded. Funds are being managed very well.
Is there a cap on that funding that you can't?
There's
go
not
over?
for you guys.
There's
So
not,
there can be, with other entities, the earnings can be taxed, the interest earnings, but for you guys, you're fine where you're at.
So that fund balance is just a carry forward?
It just carries forward each year. It either, that's what Shelley talked about when she came up at the very beginning, talking about that balance and where it was. That's that fund that she's talking about.
That's great.
All right. So on the next page is the stop loss. So each year we mark your stop loss. We see what renewals can we get, how's it gonna look. I wanna let you guys know, we were able to get your stop loss this year, even considering those 3 very high cost claimants that you had. We got you a decrease in your stop loss premiums. So a savings of $44,000 on your fixed premiums. And then that also reduced your maximum liability by an additional $146,000. So we reduced your claim liability as well on your stop loss for the upcoming year. Right? So the next page is our recommendations. So we recommend no change to your plan design or the premium contribution strategies for this year. Okay? Medical trend for most employers right now and in the nation is 10 to 15%. So that's what you're seeing typically on a year over year if you're an average organization. Joplin Schools has gone 3 years with no changes in premiums and no changes in plan designs. This will be the 4th year with no change in premium, no change in plan design for your employees. So we're incredibly excited about that. I think that's a wonderful thing to be able to pass along to them.
No change is excellent.
Exactly.
I think it's fantastic.
Same doctors, same hospitals, same
Same
benefits,
doctors, same
price. It's-
hospitals. We'll
Yep.
see some savings. So again, that fund that you have, we're seeing savings on your admin fees.
Right.
We're gonna see savings on your prescriptions, so we can see that fund possibly go up even more. But I still think you want to keep premiums and everything where they're at, to continue to stabilize things so that we don't have to increase in the future. That was the whole plan when we set things up 3 years ago. We want to keep this at a steady point so we don't have to have major swings in the premiums in the future. Questions on those? Okay, the only other thing was on all of the ancillary benefits. So your dental, vision, life, disability, all of those with MetLife and OCHS, those all have a rate hold. Everything is staying exactly the same, no change in benefits, no change in rates. So we do recommend renewing with each of those carriers as well.
You bring such great
Great
news.
story.
Well, I was prepared. I was told you, and I saw you guys asking some questions in the construction part, so I've been prepared. Okay, guys, come on. I've heard you have questions.
I think it sounds great.
It's a nice story. It's really nice way it's come together. It's great.
Especially when most look at 10, 15% increase in premiums. Our employees don't have to pay anymore to get the exact same level of care they've got. So it's a great story.
And I will tell you, we made also a few years ago, 3 years ago, for those of you who are new, we really took a hard look at the benefit plan designs and improved those. And your benefit plan designs that you have are some of the best in this area. And you have got wonderful benefits with good deductibles, good insurance, low out-of-pocket maximums. You've got very rich benefit plans for your employees. And the fact that, most employers, when they're getting those increases, they either have to take that increase or increase deductibles, and you guys haven't had to do any of that. And I just think that's a really good thing.
And one thing you did not mention, when you did that, premiums actually went down.
Yes, we improved the benefits and lowered premiums 3 years ago, and we've been able to keep those for 4 years now.
I would say from our healthcare plan group, and kind of anecdotally, from what I talk to employees in the district, they are quite pleased with the benefits that we have, and the plan that we have, and they don't want to change. And so those are things that we consider when making these decisions and bringing recommendations.
I think it's also evident because we have more people joining the group.
Yes.
As our headcount doesn't grow, we have more people joining.
And it is growing. I mean, we should-
30,
Yes,
yeah,
even
30.
up the 2020 plan year, you guys have been steady size-wise, employee count for years. We added 30 additional people this year at open enrollment that
That's
took
great.
the plan, wanted to enroll, and that's fantastic.
Wow.
I would make a motion that we approve the no increase in premiums to members or the district. In addition, the changing the stop loss carrier to granular as recommended.
I'll second that motion.
All right, motion by Brent, second by Derek. Any more questions? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you
Excellent.
guys so much,
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. So next on the agenda, Carrie, we do have the recommended construction manager at risk. We want to talk about that. Is that, we're going to need to have more information.
I think you're like table that till, I think you're talking about a week from Thursday.
Yes, Thursday, July 1st at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So we will get
So we
the
need,
final
we need to
bid.
make a motion to table that.
There's no,
I'd make a motion to
All right.
table,
All
number
right.
2, the recommendation to amend the construction manager.
I think I heard
at
Sherrick second.
risk. Did you?
Yes.
Well, then I'll second his motion.
No, you second it.
Oh, okay.
All right.
No, I don't
Please
agree.
vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes, correct. Okay, thank you. We'll table that. We'll take that back up when they have finished their calculations on vetting of the bids. All right, next, Shelley.
We're bringing to you tonight our recommended budget for the fiscal year 21-22. And significant input has been obtained from all leadership in the various programs and services provided to Joplin school students. The result of this combined effort is a budget was properly aligned with the goals and mission of the school. Everyone involved in the budget process has endeavored to make sure that we developed a sustainable plan and not based on one-time money. The budget projection is based upon current information that's generated prior to the completion of the current fiscal year. So we always know that it's going to be dynamic and be the same way it is this year. As we progress through the year and we get more complete data, then we'll be making those changes and bringing those budget revisions to you. The most critical monitoring involves our operational budget, which is our general fund and our teachers fund. And those are where we see all the recurring expenditures. So we want to make sure that we always keep those in line that we can sustain in future years. And we purposely did not include any one-time money in this budget. And we will make revisions as we see the more cares and HERF funds as they come in. So we provided to you a couple of charts there. If you go to the second page there, we're projecting estimating total revenue to be $91,906,000 approximately. And we've shown it by local, county, state, federal, and the miscellaneous. And then our expenditures are projected to be a little over $121 million. A big difference is because the bond fund, we got all that money last year, and we only expended about 1.9 million of that 25.4 million received. So that's where the bulk of that is. We're also, our debt service fund, our principal payment is going to be at 625,000 for this next year. And then we also have the Jung Stadium that we received some of that revenue last year, but we're going to be paying for that school board in this next year. So that's for the bulk of those. And we provided to you on the following pages all the different changes here on this balance sheet. Some of you, I want to make sure that everybody understands what we're showing here. This top section is our projected fund balances, where we ended up, where we think we're going to end up this current fiscal year. And all of those numbers are the same as what we presented to you last month, except for the capital projects fund. And we did move up that committed balances for the Jung Stadium and the elementary changes. So those had been shown as an expenditure in last year's budget. We moved them back as we didn't really expend those just yet. They're up in the committed fund. The middle section shows our projected total revenue by fund, and then transfers that we're expecting. And again, we're not including any one-time money, so this is just basic, without any of that one-time money, just what we think that it's going to be. And then we have our projected expenditures by fund. The bottom section shows our projected fund balances, where we think we'll be at this time next year. And as you can see, overall, our unrestricted fund balances have not changed significantly between the 2 years. So we do feel that Joplin School District is one of the most fiscally well-positioned in the area. As we go on through the next page, we'll show estimated revenue And this first section shows it by object and fund. One area I would like to just draw your attention to, because it does look a little strange, is the object codes 5172, 5174, 5179 represents like our student activity funds. And those in our old software, we had to actually budget for each expenditure for each one of those funds. Our new software, those are kind of like, everything flows through the main general ledger, but they're kind of off on their own and work like a checkbook. So we don't have to specifically allocate each dollar amount to those separate funds. So we just kind of had a bulk number that we had seen over the past few years and just put it in as a line item on that. And then as you go through there, on the state revenue, there's not significant changes there. The federal, we left out all the CARES and funds. So you'll see a lot of just blank lines there. The total federal revenue, the 5497, the lunch program, it's kind of moved around the last few years. It used to be on, let's see, used to be
5481?
5481 is where we got this year, but now it's moved down to 5497 in next year. So it's the different programs because it's been free lunch to all students. So it's operating under the supper feeding program, I believe, is that right, last year? And then next year it's going to be under what they call the SSO, and it's going to have to be reported under the other federal revenue. So then the next section shows the revenue compared to the 3 prior years. And this year we're able to show a full 3 prior years before that because of the change in DESI coding that happened in 2019, we weren't able to show specific line items that we are able to show you now. And again, the main differences you're going to see is on the federal revenue side there. Then when we get to the expenditure side, we have it by function and fund first, and then we also, you'll go back and there's more detail where it's by fund, function, and object, and that's where you'll see the 3-year comparison. A lot of those you'll see like in the elementary and middle school supplies for technology. Those are a lot of the Chromebooks that were purchased this past year. We had, a lot of all of that CARES money that came in, and we used a lot of that for those programs. And then some of we are seeing, which we'll get to an agenda item later on, some of our insurance this next year, we're seeing a pretty good increase in some of our property insurance and all of those. So those have been reflected in here as well.
Yes, 18.1% insurance increases, just so you're aware. As you compare those kinds of numbers versus construction and everything else that's going up. Wow. Difficult.
Did we take insurance back out as a result of that?
It's a 3-year process. Basically,
Jerry, you have an agent that does kind of what Jamie does, who works on behalf of the school.
Right.
So usually when they jump it up to that degree, that gives you an out to go bid it.
Yeah, but at the same token, we had 2 major players in the property business that refused to bid. John did go out and ask for bids from 2 other players, and he got, no, we don't touch this. So what's happened is they're pooling, the biggest companies are pooling and putting bunches of companies underneath them to amount to the insurance that we can get when it comes to property. Property is a mess right now in the Midwest because of all the weather. And it's been that way ever since the tornado year, but it's been even worse in the last 5 to 7 years, 5 to 6 years. So it's a problem. Flappers.
So another item is the food program is normally under function 2562. That was moved this current year under function 3911. So you'll see some major discrepancies if you were looking at the different years in those function codes. And then we also had the food service from the rate 911 has moved up. We're also seeing SE as they rolled out new codes in fiscal year 19. They have continued to make changes and telling us more where they wanted different programs coded. So you'll see some that maybe appeared in fiscal year 19. One of those is, I think, in the 1253s or something. They got moved around. So you'll see that's kind of what that is. It's still kind of
It's a moving
it's a
target.
moving target. And with all the cares and everything else, it's been a moving target all year long.
There've been 3 big buckets.
Could you try again?
Try again, Shelley.
Yeah, but there,
My hands too much.
there've been 3 big buckets, and that's why they're having to change the codes.
Yes.
And so I just don't envy them having to deal with the 540 public schools, charter schools that all have to account for these. It's a tough job.
So as much as you review all the policies and read every word, these are what I do. And we've had some good conversations following where it's been coded in previous years to where it is now to see, okay, it didn't just drop off, it's been changed to something else, or vice versa.
Right.
Vice versa, something has started that wasn't there before.
So there's been a lot of that. So then kind of just to recap, we haven't included any one-time money in this initial budget. We know we'll have revisions as we go throughout the year. We've been very cautious on our revenue, more generous on our expenditures. And we feel Joplin Schools is fiscally well-positioned as we go into this next year. But I'd like to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you, Shelley. I would
move that we approve the recommended budget for the 2021 and 2022 school year.
Thank you, Derek.
Second.
Thank you, John. Moved by Derek, second by John. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Next up again, accounts payable.
Okay, in our accounts payable tonight, we're bringing to you a bill list. It's a little over $7 million. Last year at this time, it was around almost $5 million. The main difference is increase of a few construction costs are in there as well. Then we had some middle school Chromebooks that were purchased that are showing up, and had a few more of the payroll liabilities that we're getting in there. Happy to answer any questions.
I would move that we pay our bills.
Second.
Motion by Brent, second by Dr. Joseph. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Shelley, all right. Advanced network cybersecurity.
Okay, we have some gentlemen coming up to join me that are Vince and Hunter, and they're deep in the weeds along with Eric in terms of explaining this kind of approach. Just to give them a little quick kickoff. Unfortunately, we live in a world now where cyber attacks is something that we can't get away from. And we have had a college junior college just down to the south of us that had quite a breach. I mean, in fact, I talked to the president here about a month and a half ago, and he said, I want to say 9-10 months ago, and they're still dealing with some of the residue of that. I believe also our four-year college has possibly been hit at before, as well as others. And we believe it's not about if, it's when, it's going to happen. And so there are 3 type of approaches that the guys are going to talk to you about. One is about 24/7 monitoring. Another one is about scanning and detecting threats constantly within our network. And the other one is about emails and filtering, because we all know that emails and phishing and all that kind of stuff is a big deal. So I'll let the guys go ahead.
The threat environment that we're dealing with now has been increasing with a lot of influence of money, even from foreign governments, financing entire criminal organizations to try and extort money one way or another out of all sorts of businesses and even academia. Because of the nature of the technologies that we use in the classrooms, they have found academic institutions like the K-12 environment and colleges to be easy pickings for their criminal activities. And during the past year, we've seen about 57% of all ransomware attacks hitting academic institutions. You have nearly a quarter of institutions that have been hit by ransomware forced to close either permanently or for short periods of time in order to try and recover and get their environment up. And they've experienced significant financial impact, loss of chief executives by resignation or termination. And the liability is becoming too expensive for us to not try and mitigate. Buying these services do not contribute anything to the educational experience in the classrooms. It's simply protection so that we can keep confidentiality, keep our systems online, and be able to have students in our buildings safely. We cannot conduct classes if some of the critical information, like parental contact information, should become unavailable if they're under a ransomware attack. So we would have to close, as Park Hill School District had to do just 2 months ago. They were closed for a couple of days. Right now, the criminal organizations that are performing these types of attacks are generating more revenue than the entire global narcotics trade. And they're bringing in huge monies of additional hackers to try and help them make even more. The technologies that we've been using are not really adequate in this new environment with the new sophistication of attacks to continue to protect us properly for this future growth. So we have put together 3 different levels of protection. And we quoted that all out through an RFP, and you have some information in front of you as far as the cost of each of those 3 different levels of protection. We're wanting to address steps that could be taken before an attack would occur, and then tools to help us deal with an attack if everything fails and we get hit. Because the nature and the different technologies that we have inside the school district, it's very difficult to say we'll never get hit. It's just a question of when. We want to have tools, we prefer to have tools to be able to protect us, regardless of what the various sources that are available for them to get into our network now and in the future as this technology grows, for them to be able to attack us and to bring us down, shut us down, and prevent us from having our data. Some of the payouts that have been occurring by industries that choose to pay the ransomware have been not just the cost to resume operations, but also they're being blackmailed because of the information they're able to get out of the system, threatening to release that. And that affects not only the student information, it would affect also information concerning staff confidentiality, making all of the individuals in the district as targets for further on blackmail and loss of information, identity loss. Basically, they collect the information from one criminal organization and they sell it to other criminal organizations so that those organizations can do identity theft against employees. So the whole nature of the different criminal organizations helping each other to increase our liability is to be pretty intimidating. And it's a significant potential cost in many different ways, and it can take, as water college has done that, years to try and get back to normal operation.
And the one we're bringing to the board, we feel they lock the most doors. Okay. And hopefully they will help keep us protected for a long time. And it's just, what happens is they get in your system, they steal the data, and then they lock you out. So they're in, when they lock you out, they already have all your data offsite. So that's what we're gonna try, that's what we want to try to prevent. And that's why we're recommending who we're recommending today, just to try to help mitigate that. And so Joplin schools hopefully won't face that, especially with everything that's going around us, and including, the pipeline, the meat processing plant, it's more and more just because it's so lucrative, and we don't want to have to pay out to get our data back.
I noticed, go ahead.
Well, so the one, and it's not the least expensive, but that's the one that locks us down as tight as we can be.
That's correct. And the one reason we are going with them is because everybody covers Macs and Windows, right? So, but we got Chromebooks, so that was a little more of a challenge. But they also go in and look at printers and cameras. So anywhere on our network where there's
An access point.
able to be data storage, they will check that to make sure that we're protected as much as we can.
I don't have an issue.
It's either give them the money or give it to you right now, so.
I would make a motion that we approve the advanced network cybersecurity as presented, going with Pondurance, MDR with Mimecast email security.
Second.
All right, motion by Derek, second by Dr. Joseph. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, that motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Go protect us.
Appreciate it.
Next up, Dr. Mwangi.
You're agreeing to it, I'm not used to it. Tonight, I am bringing to you a renewal for school photography, and Jeff and I had shared some communication on this and reflecting back on the transparency. This is one of those pieces that we want to be super open and honest with our families, is the transition that we had with school photography, because we did make a shift this school year and some of the solutions that came out of the process. So I just want to kind of review that and go through that with you. I would say, just to kind of walk you back to where we started, when this went out for bid was during the onset of shutdown. So that factored into that, where the committee was able to come together during that time. We were able to review bids. Through the review, it was May, actually. We still did business back during that time when we brought the recommendation to you. And the recommendation that was brought to you had the lowest price point with the highest commission. And so that was a huge piece, as well as the quality of photo from the reference that we had, as well as the actual photo day experience. So when we moved through with that recommendation with Wagner Portrait Group in May, I'll be super transparent, a lot of my attention moved to reentry as we kind of started school. So school pictures, it was a late start anyway, getting all of the communication kind of set up with our buildings across the campuses and getting that going. They initiated the fall photos in all of our elementaries and our middle school and our high school. And what came from that was a miscommunication of pricing was probably the largest piece that was not communicated well from a marketing standpoint. And so immediately once those pieces of information started coming in, I started working closely with Wagner to remedy that. We did have spring pictures in our elementary and middle school, and those were fixed and corrected by the spring portrait. The high school would not have seen that because they only do fall portraits. So Eric, if you will scroll to that second page, I just want to provide the public and provide the board what came from those updates. And so we have what we remarketed, if you will, as Joplin Eagle Specials. So when we want to push online ordering, we really, it's just more efficient from handling papers and money with kids in and out of the building. So the online websites are specific to every school. Everybody has a code that they enter to do those online packages. And where before you saw what they just call their standard marketing that they have coded, I'm sure those in the tech world that would understand that. So they had to go back and fix the coding of how the packages were promoted, where we renamed them as well to make them very clear. The Joplin Eagle Specials, our most popular option, is where that $20 option is. Then you see the next option, and this would be pretend you're scrolling on the website. The next option at $15, $12, and then the $8. Those were the bidded packages that we did last spring. When you scroll down, all companies have had an opportunity to offer more additional packages if they choose to, but this really cleaned it up. So I think from the district perspective, we went through some hurdles. We had a lot of things we worked through. And Wagner has been great of working with us and taking care of all of those. There was a lot of complementary things they did that we just simply didn't have in the bidded package. So my recommendation would be to recommend them again for next school year. We should be through all of our first year transitions where we can get a true experience. And I think for the public and for our parents, it's important for me to point out the Joplin Eagle specials. When they go order online, it will be the first package they see. It will be at reasonable rates that they have historically been used to. And then if they choose to do a flyer form, we did update the flyer as well. We pinpointed those Joplin Eagle specials on the flyer that has the same pricing they see online. So that was probably the biggest hurdle, was the pricing point. And I just want to make sure that parents and the public, they understand that, and we have worked through those hurdles with Wagner throughout the school year. So it'd be my recommendation tonight to approve Wagner Portrait for school photography next school year.
Thank you.
That pretty much answered the questions and the concerns I had, because people weren't able to find that.
Right.
And so you 100% answered my questions and any questions that I had. So I would move to recommend the school photo bid as presented.
All right.
Second.
I mean, I'm
Motion,
confident.
yep. Motion second. I'll make one comment. I appreciate it. They did have the specials before, but they were at the very end of the page. So people maybe gave up before they got to option 99.
I get that.
So they were there.
Yeah.
And I think the more we can help, and I would welcome our parents' support and our principals and secretaries. I've honed in their support as well, because I think we just have to recommunicate the pricing
Absolutely.
and make sure that our parents understand. We've scheduled a meeting with our secretaries and Wagner for back to school, so we make sure everybody's on the same page and we can work through the hurdles we went through, hopefully are beside us now.
Excellent.
That answered all my.
Motion by Derek, second by Doug.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, that motion.
Sarah, I
passes.
also just want to say thank you. I know you spent a lot of time and effort on this.
Yes.
And your Thursday update was just amazing. I mean, it just clarified, you laid everything
Well,
out. It
I
was
will say
just
school
spot on.
photography is not something I probably will put on my resume ever. And I have learned a lot about school photography. So it was my first go around, but we're in good shape now.
Mr. Jordan, that's Dr.
All right.
Sarah.
What's cooking?
Dr. Milwaukee, my bad.
All right, Mr. Kinkle, what's cooking? Next up.
No pun intended.
Okay, good one, Jeff.
All right.
Double stacked ovens. Rick is here to talk to you about updating his fleet of ovens and everything else he has. And one of the things that we've tried to do in the last couple of years is, with our cataloging of everything in the FMX system, is do a better job of checking maintenance and things that we do on all the products that Rick uses to cook, and make sure that our cafeteria staff have everything they need to take care of the kids' needs. So he's here to talk to you about two very old ovens that we need to
60
replace.
years old each.
Per the facts, I guess they are 60 years old in both of those facilities. So you just very hard to find replacement parts. Another pertinent fact is that any pretty much budgetary expense that I have is funded through the food service budget in some fashion or another. We do allocate some money for the food service capital outlay, but again, that is still funded through the food service budget. So I guess I'd recommend replacing some old ovens in the district.
All right. I guess they don't make them like they used to.
No, not at all. I'd recommend to buy some new ovens from Joe Harding Food Service Equipment at $31,620.
Second.
All right. Motion by Derek, second by Mr. Joseph. Discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. All right. Next up. Hello, Sarah.
Computer dice.
All right.
We brought our sped track, contact you guys last month for 1 year, but with our ESER refunds, sped track is our web-based software program that we use to streamline our special ed evals and IEPs, so that we can be compliant with IDEA. And so with the ESSER refunds, after we met as a leadership team, we decided that one good use of those funds would be to pay for a 3-year subscription rather than 1 year. So we are bringing it back to you, asking you to approve it for $58,935 instead of around $40,000. I just wanted to look at
Senator, do they give you a discount for doing it 3 years at a time, or no? It's just,
They just guarantee that it's not going to.
it's not going to go up. Okay. I would move to buy the Ion Wave Technologies at 58,000, whatever, 935 as presented.
Second. Motion by Derek, second by Dr. Joseph. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. That was simple.
Well, I think there's one more thing I need to say. I believe we have a birthday entertainment today.
29 never felt so good.
Oh, that's right. Happy birthday.
Hey, thank you. I've been doing this 29-year-old thing for so long, I just went ahead and accepted it this year.
That's it.
No. I've got,
All right.
yes.
So a plus is we won't listen to Derek sing.
Oh, I don't sing. Trust me, I don't sing.
Recipient of the letter.
I can't sing.
All right, any pluses and deltas?
I've got to have a delta.
Okay.
I was really frustrated when we were talking about our construction projects. Didn't really know how to compose myself and speak intelligently, and I think I can now. You know, I don't recall any specific dollar amounts that were discussed. I realized we had applied dollar amounts through the process. But to the extent that there are people in the public that may have been confused by the project, I hate that. And that's not acceptable. And that certainly is nothing that I recall happening in all the events that I attended through that process. I felt it was extremely transparent. And what I recall mostly about the process was that we were going to build a new elementary school, and we were going to add on to Kelsey Norman without increasing our cost of funds. We're going to basically continue the current cost of our funds and no tax increase. We didn't know what the buildings were going to cost to build. We didn't know what the cost or the benefit of the bondings that we would bid would be. Those came in extremely competitive, by the way, better than we could have even told anybody at all those meetings. So that's a win that might offset whatever losses that we're suffering right now through this COVID thing. To my knowledge, the only things that have gone not quite our way in this process are we're currently having we're encountering a few rocks, is my understanding. And the cost of materials is more than what we had expected to be at the time because of this pandemic. None of those things could have been anticipated. We have contingency funding on the rock. Any short we would have from the bonds, I believe Dr. Moss has told us repeatedly, we think that we'll be able to cover with our capital accounts, our project accounts that have been managed to the district's great benefit by Dr. Langford, who is retiring, and Ms. Toft, who is taking his place. I believe we have been informed tonight that our district is in fantastic financial condition. And so while there are people who are suffering anxiety right now, I get it. I'm suffering it too. And I regret that there's anybody in our community that may question the transparency of the process. But I cannot recall a more transparent process in my life that I've participated in. And those of us that have served on the board, attended countless meetings with the constituents. Anybody who wanted to know what was going on, the information was available to them. And I am very confident in the site that's been picked. I'm very confident in everything that is happening. And we need to clean it up. I mean, if there's something that isn't going right, we need to clean it up. But I just want everybody to know that the delta that I sensed was the manner in which we addressed concerns that we may have about the project. I thought that was poorly handled.
And I hope we can handle that better in the future.
I've got a plus. I mean, Dr. Langford, this is your last meeting on this side of the table. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate you spending your last few years, 5 years? 5 years? Yeah, your last 5 years with us. I'm glad you saved the best for last. It's been a good ride, and you've left us in a good position financially and a good program with Shelley that she'll take us on in the future. So rest well. You've done a great job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
The only thing I would say is 66 years ago, I answered the first school bell as a first grader. So it's probably time to hear the last one ring. So. But I've really enjoyed being here. And I will tell you, I don't envision myself. I would love just to continue, but it's not about my past. It's about the future of those kids that we represent here tonight. And so I'm not the future. You're fortunate to have Shelley, but you're fortunate to have the leadership team that you have. And I do this publicly every chance I get is having been a superintendent, having been a deputy commissioner of education at the state level, which that was the number 2 position in the state, having served as a classroom teacher, a counselor, a principal, assistant superintendent, all of us will never have a moment where we are without a mistake because we go back, we'd all like to do things, but you're very fortunate to have gotten Dr. Moss, who has came to the school district, and she's provided a calm reassurance. And I always tell everybody, that ask me why I did something. If I can't tell you why, then that's my problem. But in the end, you may not agree with me, but you hire that lady or the person and who happens to be that lady to lead the school district, and you're very fortunate to have her and the leadership team that she has working with her.
Pluses and deltas or motion to adjourn?
I would make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Koch.
All right. And a second?
Second.
All right, Dr. Joseph, please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, we're adjourned.